have a few recognitions to make here. We had a team of the Little Central Team of the Century. Team of what do we call this? What do you guys call it? Team of the. Would anybody from the wrestling team in 2001 please stand up? 2001. There we go. 3 of you. All right, this is the team that broke records at the state tournament. We had 188.5 points and 6 state champions. And you're looking at 3 of them right there. Yeah. Would anybody who was a Little Central Wrestling cheerleader or a dance team member please stand up? All right. Any Little Central administrators? That's okay. We don't need administrators. Anybody who's ever coached at any level at Little Central, junior high, high school, volunteer, paid, assistant, head coach, please stand up. Place winner, remain standing. If you were a finalist, remain standing. If you were a champion, remain standing. Look at that. If you were a 2-time champion, remain standing. If you were a 3-time champion, remain standing. I don't know if that was appropriate to do after Keith just talked about that. But it was on the agenda, so I couldn't deviate. All right, I think that's going to wrap up the program for tonight. We do have posters up here. If anybody wants to take home a Little Central Wrestling poster, we're going to save one up here that we would like any Little Central wrestler to sign it. We're going to cover this thing with signatures and maybe sell it to someone for money for the scholarship. And then a couple things we talked about. Contributing, building a community here. I want to point out Coach Massey, I didn't mention earlier, but Coach Massey is coaching a youth program now. The Panther program, we hired him a year ago, and he is running that program now. And we call our team Powerhouse Wrestling, but it's still a Panther organization. And so I just wanted to point that out. He's doing a great job. And you know, with someone like him coaching our youth, it's going to make us high school coaches look good because they're going to be ready to go when they get there. We won't have to do much with them. But we do have an opportunity tomorrow. There's a youth district wrestling tournament, and if anybody wants to give back right away, we need volunteers tomorrow to help out at that tournament at Iowa Western. Also, there's NAIA Nationals coming up in a few weeks. They're still looking for help with that at Iowa Western. If you are interested in helping work at that tournament, work at the tables, get in touch with me and I'll help you figure out how you can get down there on the floor and get close to the action. And then also, remember every December, the second weekend in December, we have a wrestling tournament here that we host, and we're always looking for help with that. So if you guys, I'll take that information from those sheets on the table, and I'll create an email list, and I'll send out whenever we have opportunities to help. I'll send stuff out to you guys, and I'll also update you on recipients and scholarships, and we try and build this community and keep you all informed of what's going on with Little Central Wrestling. So, at this time, we need to do anything else? Ready? All right. This time, who has stories? Feel free to get up and mingle while we're telling stories here. I know we've been sitting a while, but we got a story here.
I just thought that I need to get Travis up here again. All these animals come through. Who's up for wrestling is from all the animals that never got to wear a shirt. I thought Travis ought to have one.
Yes! Anybody else?
Leave it open.
Yeah, we'll just leave it open. Oh, here we go.
Well, my name's Bob Adkins. Nobody even knows who I am in the wrestling program at Louis Central. I'm older than dirt when it comes to the wrestling program at Louis Central. In fact, this very dirt we're sitting on tonight, I used to farm many years ago. So that goes to show how old I am. But I just think it's very important that everybody knows just how important I was to the wrestling program at Louis Central. Wayne, would you like to come up here? Back when Dwayne, as we all know, the Kilgore families had a great part of Louis Central wrestling. And when Dwayne was a freshman, I was a senior. And Dwayne was a pretty fair wrestler, but he had no self-confidence. And I thought to myself, what can I do for this program? So I would wrestle him in practice and roll over on my back and let him beat the senior. And I think it did something for him. Because he turned out to be a pretty fair wrestler, as did his children. So I just wanted you to know that I did play a part.
My name is Steve Weinborn. I used to be the wrestling coach at Louis Central Junior High at the time, then became middle school, from 1971 to 1982, 12 years. If you wrestled for me during those years, would you please stand up? I taught for 40 years at Louis Central, all in the junior high, middle school, and I just loved it. The first time I saw wrestling was at Eastside Junior High. It's now AL. And I was a 8th grader, and I went to a match. I saw these guys come out in these tights and shorts. I go, there's no way I'm going to come around running around looking like that. Well, I went out the next year. Some kids encouraged me to go out, so I did too. And I did okay as a 9th grader, and I wrestled 3 years in high school. And then I went to Peru State College, and we didn't have wrestling until my senior year. So I had the distinction of being the only senior on the team. And I was lousy also. I just used to get my head bashed in. The coach hated me. He told me later, he goes, I asked him one time after I finally won a match, I go, I bet you hoped I would quit, didn't you? And he goes, yeah, I did. He said, I saw you come to practice. I go, oh crap, another slow practice. Well, when I did win that match, he says, Wymore, you've gone from nothing to something. I loved it. This guy was hard-nosed. He was an ass. But to hear that from him, and I only went out because I knew I was going to go into teaching. And somebody said, if you can be a coach, that will help you get a job. Well, wrestling was the only thing available, and they were bringing it in. And halfway through the season, I too was ready to quit. But then somebody else said, you can't quit for this coach, because he's the type of guy that is asked to go out and evaluate teachers. Now, the only thing I can think of is, okay, with my luck, he's the one that's going to come and evaluate me. And if I quit wrestling, oh, jeez, I'll never get a job. I won't stay here very long. I got the job. I understand he wrote a pretty decent recommendation for me. And so I started in '71, and I never said this to any of my wrestlers. We did the daily dozen every day. That's what we used to warm up in college. And from what I've been told by former wrestlers, those were some of the toughest warm-ups we did. There were 12 different exercises that we did, and we were going to make sure that we were good and loose. My job, I felt, as the junior high coach, was one, get them into conditioning skills, teach them some of those, learn to get along with each other, camaraderie. Teachers would come to me and say, such and such has been acting up in class. So I had to be the whipping boy. And so when I hear about that, I talk to the kid, I says, you gotta do the gauntlet. So the kid would have to wrestle everybody on the team. And I remember one kid, he went home and told his parents, because they told me later, I hate Wymore. I hate him. I'm gonna quit. Well, the next day I made the captain. I'm catching cold too. And he turned out to be a great wrestler for me. Something that I always used was, you only fail if you fail to try. And I know a lot of kids didn't wrestle after 8th grade, but they sure tried for me. And I can't ask anything more. And some of you guys that are still here, I have all the pictures from our team. So if you want to take a second, come find yourselves, see how much hair you had. On top, that is, not here. How skinny you look like. You look like you're all anorexic sometimes. I mean, you were pretty thin. But I know the muscles came on later, because I knew the high school coaches would get that meat on you eventually. But those were the best 12 years, and I agree. Helping to build character. I also tried to teach them to win and to lose. Teaching them to lose was the hardest part. Teaching them to win, that's okay. But it's the losing. And I'm sure many of you, all of you can realize, especially now that you're adults, how many character building moments you had because of wrestling. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but in the long run, just the fact that you're here and you participate in wrestling, you always won. You really did. Thank you very much.
Travis said a lot of great things about Massey, and he's obviously a great guy, one of the greatest coaches we've ever had. But he didn't really say any of the corny stuff that Massey used to say, and I wanted to share some of that. I remember when we were in high school, the phrase, "What's up, dog?" started to get popular. So Massey would always go to us and say, "What's up, canine?" And then he'd say, "What's up?" and he'd go, "The ceiling." And he was our Spanish teacher, and you'd ask him questions, and he'd go, "Sí, señor. Sí, señor. Sí, señor," over and over again with a weird look on his face. And Travis mentioned child abuse. I remember every time we were messing around in practice and he caught us, he'd give us a lead finger on our school with his wedding ring, and that's why it's in child abuse. But I also remember junior year when Travis tried to throw our heavyweight. He wasn't even our heavyweight because he couldn't make weight. He was 330 pounds or something like that. And he tore his ACL. We found out he tore his ACL, and we were both bawling like babies. And Keith brought us into the auditorium. He just had just a positive talk with us. It's not the end of the world. champions deal with adversity. God never gives you more than you can handle. And just coach Travis through this hard time. And with rehab, helped him with that. I know Steve was a part of it. He went on to be an undefeated state champ without an ACL that year. And Keith just does amazing things, and he is corny, but he's one of the greatest ever.
I'm a doctor, so I know how these colds get caught, so I'm gonna write this off. So I don't get cold that's going around. One thing I realized tonight is I owe Keith Nestor an apology. I did 27 pull-ups in 3rd grade. Sorry, man. Sorry. Freak of nature. The scariest day of my life was during wrestling season during high school. And I remember I was in the back seat of one of those Suburbans that we drove to the tournaments up in Fort Dodge. And that was the day that I learned that Coach Bleth is colorblind. And the stoplights weren't up and down, they were sideways. So red and green, well, it looked the same to Coach Bleth. And yeah, there was some screeching of tires, and there was no accident, but yeah, Coach Bleth is colorblind. One lesson that I learned from Dwayne Kilgore, I think I was probably 7 years old, and taught me a lesson that stuck with me my whole life. And kids club, small kids. And at the end of practice, he called us all together in a little bit of a pep talk. And he talked about the importance of wrestling with your heart and doing it for yourself. If you ever want to be truly good at something in life, you have to do it for yourself. And he got emotional. And I remember the emotion that he had. It really drove that lesson home to me. That if you really want success in anything in life, you have to do it for yourself. Whether it be parenting, whether it be in business, whether it be religious, whatever it is, you have to have it in your own heart. And I thank you, Dwayne, for that lesson you taught me. Thank you.
My name is Josh. I graduated in 04. Not good at talking in public, but I had a couple stories. One involves Trent Travis. Goes back to, I think it was my sophomore year. Yeah. When we were in Padilla's computer class, all of a sudden Travis is getting rowdy, starts to try to wrestle anybody that he wants. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting backed up in the corner, and then Trent comes over, backs me up, and all of a sudden we have a 1-on-3 wrestling match in the computer room. And then Travis brings over another buddy, and so we have a fatal 4-way in the computer room. And Mrs. Padilla's like yelling at us, "Everybody break it up, break it up." So you never knew what Travis and Trevor were going to be up to. Do want to say there was also my junior, not my sophomore year. We went up to a wrestling mat up in Carroll. In wrestling at JV, pretty much always, since I had a larger, stronger upperclassman ahead of me on the varsity squad. I had a wrestling match that pretty much went to the very end seconds of the third period, and you could always look over and see Coach Massey, yelling at you, arm bar, chicken wing, anything and everything you could do, even though you had no energy left in you. And you could always look over and see the coaches, yelling at you to do something because they knew you had just that little bit of energy left. And I'm not sure if it came down, if I won or that other kid won, but the coaches came out and picked you up off the mat, even though your feet were dragged behind you like a wet rag. But you always learn never to give up, even to the very end. And after all the wrestling matches, between Paulson's Andersons, Stamps, Davis Brothers. You know, if you ever lost or won, they always had something else. Just a few extra cents to try to make you a better person. So I guess that's more or less, you know, the family that you grew up to be with.
My name's Lou Massey. Most of you know me. How I first got acquainted with Lewis Central Wrestling. I got a job after I got out of college. Can you guys hear me all right? I got a job after I got out of college. My wife and I both taught at Underwood. You all know where that is, a little town up the road. And I just got out of college. She had already taught school. And got the wrestling coach's job at Underwood. You always wonder, what kind of coach are you going to be when you get out of college like that? But I had my mind made up. If you get on the mat with us, we're kicking your butt. That's the way I felt. They had a new principal that year who had been teaching for many, many years and coaching girls basketball many, many years in western Nebraska where they didn't have wrestling. He didn't know anything about it. They had to weigh in, the principals had to weigh in, everybody, between 7 and 7:30 in the morning. He would weigh them, they had to certify the paper. And he said to me after a couple of weeks, this wrestling is kind of stupid. Right away, I knew he was going to be my buddy. And I go, oh, why is that? Well, the kids come in here and they get on the scale and they weigh this much to make weight between 7 and 7:30 in the morning. And then they walk out of there after they make weight, they go get a drink of water and they weigh more than what their weight class is. Then they go eat something and they weigh more than that. This wrestling's kind of stupid, isn't it? I said, well, the rules say you got to make that weight between 7 and 7:30. Well, it doesn't make any sense to me. And it's not fair anyway, because you get seniors who are more mature than a freshman wrestling a freshman. Now, how can that be fair? I said, well, the rules are they got to weigh the same. Yeah, but they're much more mature as a senior. Well, that's the way it is. Some people are big and some aren't. So anyway, it's our first match coming up that year. Now, remember, this is the first time he'd been around wrestling. We were wrestling, I was in Underwood. We were wrestling Lewis Central. Where's Dwayne Kilgore? Stand up, Dwayne, so everybody can see you. You see that rascal? He was a freshman on Lewis Central's team. I had a senior. Remember, this sport's not fair. I had a really good senior. And in those days, they had ties. He, Dwayne and Phil Dillard had a tie, 2-2. I was boiling about that stupid principal. We got this freshman, Keller, picking on my senior. They had a tie. So I didn't say anything to the principal, but I couldn't stand it until the next morning I got back to school. And I said, how fair was that match last night where we had the freshman having a tie with my senior? And that's how I first got acquainted with Lewis Central, was Dwayne Keller. And I watched that rascal the whole year because he really had it together. And the principal, I'll tell you what, how I am. Just so you know, in case you ever cross me. It's going to be very subtle how I get even. The principal had a third grader. After wrestling season, I made sure I got the little kids over in the gym. Made sure his boy was with him, so I could teach the little guys how to wrestle after the season, so they could go to some little kids tournaments. And when you got little kids, if you want them to like something, all you have to do is praise the behavior that you want to continue. It is so easy. Praise the behavior you want to continue. And I made sure I gave him that principal's son, a lot of praise when he did things the way I wanted him to. And so finally, I left there that year and went over to school for the deaf. As the time went by, that principal's son was in the lineup at Underwood. He went out for wrestling. He didn't play basketball. I don't have anything against basketball. I'm just letting you know that's the way I get even. I want to thank every one of you for coming over here. Dwayne, thanks for making that principal see the light.
We're going to do one more of these, and then we'll enjoy the rest of the night.
My name is Eric Bendorf, and whenever I meet someone, they're like, Bendorf, the wrestler. No, that's my brother's, but I was the first of the group to wrestle, but never achieved what they did. There's one other person that nepotism is